Alrighty, g'day everyone in the stream. We are back. We just had a little break after a big old chat with Andrew Long from Arc Open. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I've brought someone else. Natalia's not quite here yet, but I found someone who's just as great.
Hello.
This is Liam, everyone. Liam, your Instagram handle, if they probably know your Instagram handle, it's a pretty decent one. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Which is Liam Paints Stuff. Let's sit down and kick back and have a chat, eh?
Let's get into it.
Let's get into it. So, right now it's absolutely flat chat in here, right? So we wanted to have a little break because there was just so many people in here.
It's busy.
It's loud. It's busy. We've had some wonderful entries, some more wonderful entries, last minute entries, rock up, which is pretty cool. So, yeah, we're just going to kick back now, maybe have a chat to Liam about his experience with painting and where it started for him, and then talk about maybe some of his pieces that you've brought along, some of your favourites that you've seen so far, and yeah, just chinwag away. So, where did it all start, mate?
Oh god, that's a good question. I think when I was quite young, like probably 12 or something, I got into Warhammer 40k for the first time. And my brother kind of pulled me into that a little bit. He's like a few years older.
Yeah.
So I kind of dropped in and out of that, like you often do with childhood hobbies.
Indeed.
Yeah, as is the usual thing. And then like sort of late 2018, I'd gotten like really into PC gaming as a hobby. And late 2018, I started kind of thinking like, I'm spending so much time on this, and I don't actually make anything.
There's nothing like tangible there at the end.
Yeah, nothing tangible. You don't actually do anything with it.
Yeah.
So I just felt like I was wasting this huge chunk of my life just doing that.
I think that is an incredibly prominent story that's happening now in this time. That's something that I definitely identify with as well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So I thought, there's that thing I used to do as a kid, painting those little models. I'll give that a shot. So yeah, I got back into 40k and doing like a Salamanders army that people who know my Instagram probably will have seen.
Yeah, your Salamanders are, I think, pretty synonymous with your Instagram account.
Yeah.
They're wonderful. You know, tons of conversions, excellently painted. You know, tons of atmosphere in them. Awesome stuff.
It's a very long project, that one.
Yeah. How long has it been going for now? If you don't mind asking.
I think technically speaking, it was the first thing I did starting painting again
it's like
in 2018.
a continual project the whole time.
Yeah, so it's like
nearly 5 years.
Yeah,
that's crazy commitment to one thing, because it's super easy to get caught up with everything else, right?
Yeah,
so that's awesome.
I mean, I could ramble about this for a long time, but I started off kind of doing that thing where I put like so much effort into painting an army. Like I was going so hard on like everything needing to be as good as I could make it.
Yeah.
And then like I think I started playing a few games, and I realized like there's no visual difference between something you spend 100 hours on and something you spend like 45 minutes on in that context.
It's like incredibly, it's like soul crushing at the start, and then it's like incredibly liberating, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't need to do this. These are really just tokens that represent, you know, what's going on the tables. So.
The big one is edge highlights on anything other than the most prominent surfaces.
Yeah.
It's like you can spend like 3 or 4 hours doing one Space Marine every edge, and you will only see like 5% of them in an average gaming context.
Yeah, and it's usually from top down, right? So helmet, backpack, done.
So I've had a big evolution on that front.
Yeah.
Like I've gone from spending like a month painting 5 intercessors to like 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
Awesome. And it looks much the same. It doesn't actually seem to look any different.
I know when Heresy came out mid last year, you know, you were going pretty hard with Heresy stuff for your
I did a bunch of them.
I was sort of at the same time. I was doing some Sons of Horror stuff.
Yeah.
And, I remember looking at your at some of your units and thinking, he's really cracked the process for what he wants to achieve with these Salamanders, because they were coming out quicker and quicker and quicker.
Yeah.
So that was awesome.
Yeah, there's definitely a formula to it.
Yeah, indeed.
Or like an ethos, I don't know, a concept.
Yeah.
There's also like little tricks and stuff as well. Like I found out that painting fire like less deliberately is much faster and looks more realistic.
Yeah.
So there's all those kind of things where you realise, there's a faster approach that's a better result as well.
Yeah, sharpening everything can be a bit detrimental at times, right? It's good to be loose at times.
There's definitely something like fire, which is kind of soft intrinsically, right? Indeed. It doesn't really have hard edges.
Indeed.
I forgot what the topic was.
Well, we're just talking about your journey, so like, we love Space Marines, so we can talk about Space Marines for a while. Yeah.
Display painting.
Yeah, so when did display painting come along?
Yeah. So that was like, I think about 18 months ago. I mean, someone can check my Instagram. The first display thing I painted, whenever that was the first one. think it was about 18 months.
Yeah, it was sort of, so it probably coincides with when I first really started looking at display painting in our country. And I remember, I think I remember the first piece that sort of came out of your account, and I was like, oh, he's onto something new right now. That was super cool.
Yeah, I did a bust from Scale 75, I think. It's like Irina. With some titles on the end.
Big shield.
Big shield.
Sword.
Yeah.
She's here, actually. You brought her along.
Which I brought everything.
Yeah, you brought everything, which leans into an ongoing thing that we've been talking about in the stream, which is like, it really is about bringing your painting journey, right? So we had a
bring your journey.
Bring your journey.
Oh yeah. I forgot that hashtag.
Yeah, that's the hashtag. We need to get that.
Bring your journey.
Bring your journey. It's a bit cringe, but it's also a bit cool. So.
I really have brought my journey.
You have, you know. And
I've got the whole thing.
We were chatting yesterday, and you were like, you had gone back and had a look at the face on the first bust and said, you know what?
Yeah.
She might need an update.
Yeah. There's some things that I just can't, I can't buy. Can't leave it.
So 18 months ago, display painting starts for you.
Yeah, more or less.
Did you fall in love with it instantly?
Yeah, I think so. So I think the thing that I had with the 40K stuff is I had noticed that I'd kind of stopped improving, or I'd stopped changing, right? I was basically painting this one army for 40K. So not only was it one scale and one style, Games Workshop 40K, it was one faction and one sub-faction of that faction. And that's all that I was doing, right?
You were deep in the niche.
So I was starting to think like, what I'm painting is not really any different to what I was doing a month ago or 2 months ago or whatever. I thought I like painting, I want to improve at it. So I had to try something different. And the easiest way to do that was to just do, not only a different scale, but a different kind of miniature. I went for a bust to start with. And that really catapulted me forward, I think. Like, I hadn't done NMM at all. I'd always done true metallics.
Which people make the argument, one way or the other, but I think it's all about deploying the right one at the right time, and true metal's excellent for
I think that doing NMM is an opportunity to explore the way that you understand light and the bouncing of color off different materials and all that kind of stuff in a way that doesn't always translate that well with true metals.
Yeah, it's quite incredible with non-metal metallic that, like, once you do start to grasp the concept and understand a lot more about how light is influencing what you're painting, you start to realize that it's light influencing everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And it starts to be applied to everything that you're doing, and that's when you start to see a lot more of a volumetric influence in painting.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, because I started painting NMM, I started understanding other materials in a different way. Because it's like a really shiny thing. What am I trying to say? All materials are the same, right? But the shinier they are, the more obvious it is that they reflect environmental light and they interact with what's around them. But that's true for everything. Like, wool is affected like that as well.
Yeah, very much. So
I think
listen in the sun and things like that.
Yeah, I think doing the NMM kind of helped teach me that. So it changed my perspective on how light works.
And I think that is quite a universal thing with display painting, right?
Yeah.
Like, once you start delving into that space, it really starts to open up, a whole new world.
Yeah.
So if you're at home and you don't do NM and you want to, no better time to start than now, really. Awesome. So you start display painting and you immediately, do a bust, and then where do we go from there?
This is like a stress test. What was the order of stuff I painted? I did the Irina bust, and I'd gotten that from the same Kickstarter, I think, as another bust, which was a little goblin. It's called Jinx, I think. Something like that. Jins?
Yeah, is it like a bombardier or something like that?
It's a bombardier. It's that guy. The bombardier man. So I did that as well. Which was fun. I sort of pushed the NMM a little bit more. And I started to gain like a little bit of an understanding of like, you don't need that much white in NMM. Like, you need tighter control of the value. It can't just be super dark, super light. Perfect. It has to be kind of more complex than that.
Yeah, because I think initially when you start, you're looking at placement and understanding placement where it needs to be in order to start creating the illusion of metal. Once you start to get a handle on that, you start to realize, hold on, there's a lot more going on. There's a lot more influence coming from the subjects around the metals.
And I think, like, put it this way, I painted the goggles on that goblin, like almost like chrome, but I hadn't intended to. It just came out looking that way, right? And it's that contrast in what I expected it to look like and what it actually looked like that kind of pushed me forward a little bit on the NMM front.
Yeah, awesome.
So that was really interesting.
So we've got a couple of experimental pieces in getting into display.
Pretty much.
And then you start to what I remember is you start to see some pieces come out. I think the first one that I saw was your Black Crow piece, the Black Crow Elf.
Eldarian.
Yeah,
you're right, that was it.
Yep.
That was the first 75mm scale piece that I did.
And how did you find that moving to 75 from the traditional sort of 28 heroic or 32?
Yeah, I think the thing about the larger scale is that you can fit a lot more into a material or a surface or whatever, right? So, you know, if a shoulder pad on a 32-28 is like half the size of your pinky fingernail or something, right? It's a lot larger in 75.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you tend to run into that problem more where there are these large open surfaces.
Yeah. Tui in the chat, absolute historian.
The details.
Dates and everything.
Yeah.
He's a legend.
Oh,
look at Minimancer, he's jumping in there and getting in links quicker than Mom, and they're fighting to get your links up.
Cheers, guys.
Anyway, continue, sorry, distracting you there.
Yeah, so you run into that problem of having a big open surface, and you need to fill it with paint.
Yeah.
It can't just be red or blue or whatever, it can't be flat, and it can't just have like one highlight.
No.
It's actually got to have like quite a lot of different ideas of light moving across the surface.
Yeah.
So that's a much more complex thing to do, and I think that doesn't come up very much on the 32 stuff.
Yeah.
It tends to be like maybe it's a cloak or something. A big surface.
I've always found 32 and smaller is just about being incredibly tight. You know, like I mean, it's a tight space as it is, but everything's got to be tight and it's got to be sharp. You know what I mean?
Yeah, really precise and defined.
And then when you start to move to the larger scale, you get a choice then what you want to push forward to the viewer and what you want to sink back, and that's a really interesting set of challenges, I think. So, I'm sure. So I mean, you brought some absolutely wonderful stuff, and you've been pretty open and showed almost all the stuff that you've done through your Instagram account. I think.
I think I've showed literally
everything.
Yeah.
And what was the last thing you completed before the event?
The Archer from Journeyman Miniatures.
Yeah, which Liam's got a bit of a running theme through the last sort of year of what you've done, right?
Resin?
You've been doing a lot of resin pours, and you've become quite good at doing resin pours. Do you have any quick tips you want to share with people at home for resin? It's often a topic that everyone wants to ask about, so maybe if we can throw out a few quick tips here, there's a resource for it available. So.
I mean, the first thing is the hot secret on why I've done so many resin pours is because the resin was only available in a 1.5 litre bottle.
Yeah.
So I've got like a massive bottle of it.
You've got so much. You want to do some pours for me? I'll send them over for you.
Sure, why not?
Why not? Eh?
And it goes off too.
Yeah.
You can't keep it forever.
Yeah, so you got to be quick with it. Cool.
Yeah, I think it's like humidity gets into it, atmospheric water.
Yeah.
And then it starts to go really weird.
Yeah, and
so
being in New South Wales, right? Humidity is a thing.
Yeah. So unless you've got like a little can of nitrogen or something to spray in there, which I couldn't be bothered to do, it gets weird over time. Tips. There's a Cult of Paint video, YouTube video that Andy Wardle did. It's the Deogard, is that how you say it?
Yeah, I think
Deogard series, the Woodsman.
I
always mix up whether it's the Huntsman or the Woodsman.
It's a really cool wood elf, right?
It's like a sort of elf satyr with like the furry legs and the big horns. He did like 3 videos on that on YouTube. And one of them is like a resin pour for the base. Yeah,
so if we could get a link for that in the chat, that would be awesome. From our wonderful friends helping us at home. Pay that forward. Yep.
Pretty much everything in that video is what I would suggest.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, so there's like stuff like really sanding back the resin to get a perfect like integration with the plinth.
Yeah.
And then sanding that like really fine with like 3000 or 4000 grit sandpaper, and then painting over that with gloss varnish or this gauzy agent stuff from AK.
Yeah.
Like that was something that I didn't realize. I was kind of thinking like, oh, like if you don't get it smooth in the pour, that's it. But actually you can get like a perfect glass-like finish.
So I mean, as you do it more and more, you get better and better with it, obviously. But there's always the risk that you're going to bomb it, right? We share a few Discords and are able to chat through there, and you always know when Liam's getting ready to do a pour because there's usually a post that goes out that's like, get ready for it. It's either going to succeed or go down in fire. But everyone that I've seen has succeeded really well so far.
I think the thing about resin two-part resins in general, and UV resin actually, is it's all really sensitive to environmental conditions. Right? So you can do the exact same thing, and if it's like much more humid or much hotter or colder, it just goes totally wrong. Right? It's unpredictable in that way. So if I had like an environmentally controlled chamber, I can guarantee I would get it perfect every time.
Every single time. So I guess that leads me into something else that I really enjoy and love about your painting is your incredible preciseness to detail and your patience to deliver on every single aspect of the figure and base itself. You know, it doesn't matter where you're going to look at a Liam piece. It's going to be done with like an intention and care that you can provide to it. And I think that's a really awesome part of what you do, and it's stood out in this event for sure.
I mean, actually, I think the challenge for me maybe is to be less worried about that. And more thinking about the overall impact and the composition. So that might be a focus for me in the next year.
In the next year, that is something that I've chatted many times about with David. DC. Because DC, we call it DC.
The old DC.
The old DC. We were all a little bit shackled at times by what we're comfortable with and what we do. Getting out of our comfort zone and making that sort of journey across the bridge to the other side, whether it be you're more a technical painter or more maybe a creative or say impression-based painter. There's a lot of impression in painting. You've got to be able to go both ways, right? You're always going to be getting something.
I think kind of subconsciously, I tend to look at pieces from the perspective of like worrying about every different material being represented perfectly, right? So I start there rather than starting with like an impactful or exciting concept. I think maybe I need to try and flip that around.
Well, I mean, I'm excited to hear this, and I'll be even more excited to see what comes of it next year when we're back here again.
It's hard is the problem.
It is.
Hard to do that.
It's hard to turn off what you know. Which I think something that really helps with that, not that I have that first-hand experience, but I've certainly heard it from people who have, is attending workshops with different painters. You're attending the workshop with Natalia? Looking forward to that?
I'm hoping that will help me a little bit.
I think we were talking earlier with DC, and he was saying, when I go into workshops, something that I try to do is leave everything I know at the door and completely try to adopt for the 48 hours, the painting of the person I'm learning from.
It's a good idea, I think.
That's some valuable ethos.
Definitely.
Awesome. So, what's your favourite of what you've brought? Which one of your children?
So many times.
Which one of your children do you love the most?
Who would I sacrifice on an altar? I think it's probably the Savage Beauty, the woman riding the tiger.
I think she's had the most impact at the event as well.
I mean it's big, which always helps, and brightly coloured, also useful. But that was something that I think I really tried, like a lot of stuff that I had no confidence would work, I thought, like, I'm just going to do it. And that's kind of an insane thing to do on a piece that I was planning to spend 120 hours on.
It's very much like the sweet spot for challenging yourself and learning in something new is to like sit somewhere in that, you've got to be uncomfortable. I think that's where people get pushed the most to grow. But you don't want to be so uncomfortable that you're like, I'm just completely out of my depth here and not sure where I'm going. Right?
I suppose. I think maybe I need to embrace that level of uncomfortableness though.
Well, in order to grow, as you get further in your journey, your room to grow becomes, it's not so apparent, right? Like where you've got to grow.
I think it becomes more about creativity and an original concept, and a little bit less about learning techniques or, technical focus. So I think I'm probably fine at that stuff. I can blend, I can paint tiny lines.
I think
I've got that down.
Brush control isn't something you need to worry about too much anymore.
Probably not. So
it is absolutely pumping in here right now.
I know.
There is I'll do a quick flip over so people can have a look at the display.
Big tech.
Look, you don't even.
I can't even see anything.
Can't even see anything. There's just bodies everywhere. So
it's a real crowd.
So Tui's just asked if you ever feel like you want some feedback, especially about composition and focus management, you're more than welcome to write it.
Thank you for the offer.
Do you know Tui at all? Never heard of him?
Heard of him. There's a question above that as well.
Whereabouts is this being held? Cosmic Donkey, this is the Crimson Brush, and it is being held at CanCon in Canberra, ACT, Australia.
And then above that, what are my sources of inspiration?
Yeah, and then above that, what are your sources of inspiration? Let's get back to the man himself. There we go. What are your sources?
I mean, it's interesting you say the Spanish thing, because that definitely is a source of inspiration for me.
Well, with our conversation that we had.
Yeah, so I really like that Spanish style, the focus on kind of intensity, impact, and saturation.
Yeah.
That's something I like a lot. And I always go in with the ambition of achieving that, and then what I actually paint is like it's maybe like subtly influenced by that concept, but it's not big.
It's like paint
God
loose,
knows.
right? Is a real sort of Spanish thing, or something that I take away from a lot of the Spanish that I watch paint is paint loose, paint with emotion, feel your way through it. Mix your colours and rely on yourself to get that answer, and above all else, always be having fun doing it. You know what I mean?
So I do that kind of thing. I think I'm fine at that, right? But it's the braveness to just like put a lot of color on something. And just be like, there's a safety to a desaturated palette.
There is.
Where you're like, well, I can't go that wrong.
Yeah.
Right?
Have you ever sat and talked to people who paint saturated? Like Deno is obviously someone who paints incredibly saturated.
Classic. Yeah.
When you talk about painting desaturated, it's like the same thing. It's like, oh man, I don't know how you do it.
Stressful.
Yeah, it's super stressful. So again, it's our comforts coming into play and maybe influencing us a little bit too much. So.
That's probably fair.
Have you got any other favourites around that you've seen at the event? I mean, we've got well over 200. Well over 280 entries now. I think.
You've got two that I'm a big fan of.
Yeah. Don't worry about me. Let's talk about other people. Yeah.
Ben's got a bunch.
Yep.
I think the Alchemist that he did from Spira Mirabilis.
Spira. I always say it with my Australian accent. Spira Mirabilis, but I think it's Spira Mirabilis. But
Mirabilis,
out here
that's a classic.
Mirabilis.
Yeah, that's a good one. The Alchemist that he did.
Yeah.
That's really good. I like that one quite a lot.
He really captured the cloak and the talking about textures. I really enjoyed that.
There's a lot of good textures. And it's sort of a weird thing to love, but I really like the little illustrations that he did on the inside of the book. Like, I actually think there's kind of a narrative to what's written inside that.
It's an incredible reflection of who Ben is. As you get to know Ben more, Ben puts a lot of who he is into his models. And has sometimes been criticised for having a very sober palette, or I'm not necessarily criticised, but
all brown.
All brown all the time,
all brown,
right?
all the way,
but when you hold his pieces and really get in there and have a look, there's some beautiful stuff going on.
Is Orc Hunter as well?
Yes, you guys are doing it at the same time.
That's a really original spin on that model, I think.
Yeah, very much so. The black and white on purple.
Like, it's also just sort of a creepier take on something that is not a creepy sculpt, right? Like, it's quite, I don't want to say friendly, but it's quite a nice kind of looking thing, right?
Yeah, for sure.
He's made quite a sinister interpretation of it.
Indeed.
Definitely interesting.
I was talking to him, I'm like, if there's any way to for me, I was like, this looks like it's going to have a couple of fireflies, like he's wading his way through a swamp with some fireflies, some fantasy fireflies buzzing around him.
There's a real spooky take on it.
Is this your one? Awesome. Natalia has just passed me another beautiful model.
Surprise.
Boom. Just grab a quick Natalia to have a look at. I'm going to have a very thorough, we will both probably have a very thorough look at this. Can I put this here for now? We'll put this over here. Natalia is now here, so she'll probably come on and have a chat. So she's going to just come in the stream right now with Liam and I. You've probably got plenty of friends in here. Tui's here and all sorts. Very good.
There's a little crowd.
Yeah, indeed. We'll come and get you later, okay? Awesome. So some of Ben's stuff. Kyle Morgan has just turned up and dropped a bunch of incredible stuff.
He's got a little Seven Dwarfs, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, actually.
His interpretation of that, incorporating bust and miniature onto display. I can't wait till that comes on the screen.
That's very creative, that one. And it really reinterprets the Seven Dwarves from Spira Mirabilis.
Down at Spira Mirabilis.
Yeah, that's the one.
Well, I mean, the tradition with Spiras is they get painted an awful lot, right? So finding
often a lot of very different ways.
Finding a creative avenue for yourself is very it's exciting, but it's challenging.
Yeah, that one is interesting because that is a sculpt that's actually very kind of cutesy and friendly, and he's actually made it kind of sinister, a little bit creepy looking.
Yeah, it is. There's definitely.
So that's really interesting.
Indeed. So
there's a big horse from Ray.
That big horse from Ray. Now you and Ray are sort of obviously both members of the Sydney, or maybe not so obvious, but definitely members of the Sydney Display Painting Guild. So I mean, meeting every. Talk a little bit about maybe meeting every month, once a month. Are you finding that influence is affecting everyone's painting? Is there a bit of harmony happening?
I don't know. I'm not sure whether it's affecting people's painting or not. It's not like in style, maybe in quality it might be. But it's just a really interesting thing. Like I had never seen. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, before the first one, I had never seen display painted stuff from other people. Like I'd only seen my own work. So that was like gave me a completely different perspective on what I was painting.
It's a bit daunting the first time, isn't it?
It was interesting. Yeah, like really interesting. So I think that's a big virtue of it, is you get to see kind of how your work stands up to other people's. Actually, you know, a photo is not that representative of the kind of stuff that you're doing.
So I guess a personal question, right? Did you have a moment where you knew, even before then, you were like, I think my stuff's pretty good? Like,
I don't know.
I think we can comfortably say your stuff's very good.
Thank you.
Incredible.
Mind-blowing. Literally head exploding when you came in.
No. Did you sort of know, or was it not until, you know, when it's in rooms with other stuff, you go, I think I'm starting to hit the stride that I'm looking to?
I think I probably thought I was a lot worse than I was.
That's a very common thing.
Yeah.
Painters tend to beat themselves up.
I mean, that was the most interesting kind of thing about it, is when you just see photos and stuff, you have a totally different perspective on the technical level that's out there. I think you get an accurate feel for how good people are at like color and physical composition. A photo communicates that just as well as in hand, I think. But the technical level, I think you have no idea. Like, because a photo is at a fixed distance from the model and it's at a fixed resolution.
The artist has fashioned it to be in its best possible light that they can. So.
And you frequently only see stuff from one angle. Or occasionally, like, a couple. You know? And that's a very, very different perspective.
We on the stream, you watched the streams from last year, right? The judging streams. There was a wonderful sort of moment where I think Sebastian and Trent were judging some of David's pieces that were...
The big DC.
The big DC. Some of his pieces that were very much very atmospheric, you know, designed from one angle of view. And although they're incredible in what they are, there was a really great conversation they were having about painting for an in-the-hand event versus painting for a display event, an online event, the impact that has, and factoring that into your choice when you bring in stuff or painting stuff. So.
There was some good conversation going on about that stuff. Like for me, I think that the point of doing a miniature is that it's an object that you have in your hands and it has a totally different impact. Right? It's a piece of art that is three-dimensional. It can actually be enjoyed in a different way. And if you paint it solely for one angle, it really raises the question of like, why is this not an illustration? I could just be painting this on a canvas or in Photoshop or something. Like,
100%.
You know? So there's a level of that I think, like, there's an extent of painting just for one angle that is kind of madness.
Did you just notice we had a beautiful gap in noise? Then it just went boom and dropped down.
It's like in a
Legend,
club.
how are you?
I'm well, and yourself?
Good. Just we're in the middle of a live stream, shutting away right now.
Comments to myself.
I'll come and find you later.
the all-important
live,
backwards live sign.
I think you got to flip it over.
Forwards.
Then that's when you.
There we go. And then
we're live.
There
Nice.
We are live. So, I hope our mics are picking up everything because it's got loud in here. So.
I mean the levels look good. God knows.
All right. Well, we've been going for a good, I think 20, 25 minutes. We can keep going if you'd like. Are you happy to keep talking?
I'm bad at thinking of things to say. So you got a question?
Have I got a question? Architect or gardener?
Architect or gardener?
Have you heard these terms before?
No.
Okay, so
I can guess.
Have a guess and see what you think.
I'm guessing that maybe an architect is about precision and planning ahead. And a gardener is maybe about letting things develop naturally.
Yeah.
I think I'm too much of an architect. That's my take, which you probably already guessed from what I've said in this.
I think so. But it's been a running question we've dropped in the stream. Architect.
I'd like to become a gardener architect.
Yeah.
That's
you
my
know
goal.
what? I think that if you can harness both, then you've put the stones together, mate.
That's the mission, I think.
Snap and out comes the best pieces you can possibly.
I mean, maybe that's the goal of all art, isn't it? Is to balance the precision and the technical work with creativity creativity and originality.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's my mission.
Favorite paint range?
Oh, that's always a good question, isn't it? That's like the default. That's the classic.
We'll get out some classics.
Ooh.
So we pull out some Vinci V's. Three
yeah,
colours.
yeah.
3 colours on a shout out to Vince Passerella.
We'll do paint range first.
Paint range first,
and then we'll run into the classic trio of questions.
Yeah.
Paint range. I think I'm going to have to say Chimera.
Yeah.
And that's just because I find that's what I get out when I'm not sure what to do.
Yeah.
And that feels like the most honest answer of what is my favorite paint range, right?
Do you think with Chimeras, this could be evident with any paint range, but I feel like with Chimeras, the more time you spend with them, the more they give back.
Yeah, definitely you need familiarity with the properties of the different paints.
Yeah, I'm going to quickly flick us over to some display, and you can see a bunch of people coming in.
Real close up.
Real close up.
Yeah.
Right here.
Enjoy it.
Enjoy.
Yeah, you definitely need familiarity with the properties of the different paints, right?
Yeah, indeed.
That's very important.
Come on, back.
Very nice.
So, Chimera, I might be in that camp with you. I was using a lot of AK 3rd gen stuff. Contrast paints play a big part in what I like to use. Incredible for just feathering things.
My second answer would have been contrast paints. Yeah. I actually use them a lot.
In a lot of my conversations with people about painting, contrast paints are always an incredibly hot topic, right?
Yeah. I think the new Contrast V2, the expansion of the range that they've done with all these very saturated colours, that's a really useful set of paints.
Did you have a chance to play around with those when you were over in the UK?
Yeah, I did. They had a whole day for it.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. So if you didn't know, Liam went over and participated in the content creator sort of roundup for Horus Heresy and
forgotten
Contrast.
the name of it. It was
it had a name.
Heresy
Open or something like that?
No, it wasn't an open day. Heresy launch event exhibition something.
Yeah.
It was a thing.
Yeah.
And the other thing that we did there at the same time was the new expansion to the contrast paint range. Yeah, it was really interesting.
Do you have some favourite colours in that already, or?
Yeah, the Doomfire Magenta, whatever it's called, the Magenta.
Yeah.
Baal Red, it's like a sort of slightly purpley crimson, very saturated colour. That's really good.
Eldari Emerald at all? Have you used that much?
Also very good.
Yeah.
That's like a phthalo green, like it's a blue green.
Yeah.
Very, very good colour. Rattling Grime.
Very good. Do you know what I've been messing around with a lot? Mortarion.
Oh yeah.
I think that on my Rahel
greenish.
I finished the whole face of that.
Yeah.
I love putting like an olive shade of green over skin to like give it a different interest.
Yeah. There's a lot of interesting stuff.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, when we did that thing, the best part about it was I think he was the lead paint developer.
Yeah.
Whatever his title was. Somebody senior in the development of Citadel paints was actually in the room.
Yeah.
So I got to have like quite a nice conversation with him about designing paint and like the way he looks at that whole thing.
I wonder what that must feel like when you've designed a paint range and then you've got, painters and creators from all around like blasting on your stuff, just going ham. And it's like, oh, please be good, please. Please like what I made.
Well, the upside was that I got to say that it was really good.
Yeah.
Because I liked it. I think they did really a good job.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm not sure this is true, but I think that a lot more of these paints are single pigment.
Yeah.
So they're very like high pigment density single pigment paints.
Yeah,
a bunch of them anyway.
You're telling me when it comes to technical sides of paints, I just get lost at pretty colours and ones that work. So.
But yeah, that shows, right? Like you get a very true version of these really saturated, intense colours.
Yeah.
But they're thin. Like they flow really nicely. They have good properties. They're very workable.
Yeah.
They're featherable really easily. It's quite slow drying time.
Yeah, they're
very useful.
They're really useful at keep like adjusting your midtones and keeping them cool on nominal metallics and stuff like that. Like definitely. They work really well in that instance. So.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got some paints. You've got 3. What are you taking?
Burnt umber.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, a very scale modeling,
very traditional colour. Yeah. Ice yellow.
Oh, we're going super cliche, Liam.
Yeah. And then
gotta go with what works.
If I could only have 3 colours, I wouldn't do these because it's insane, by the way. I would just do the primaries.
Yeah.
But favourite 3 colours, I think I'll end with alizarin crimson.
Alizarin crimson. Man, that has got to be one of my favourite colours. It's pretty evident.
It's really good, isn't it?
Probably a lot of my stuff here.
Yeah. It's a weirdly like global color. It's usable in a lot of stuff.
Shadows, particularly.
Yeah.
I really enjoy. I believe I've got protocols on. No, it might not be Pro. It might be a golden one. It's someone's super neat. So, of the high flow range, a golden high flow.
Yeah, golden high flow.
Yeah. Which is designed particularly for airbrush, but I pretty much it's on my palette on almost everything.
They're really nice, those paints.
They are.
I've got like a couple of them.
Yeah,
they are very good.
I've actually quite enjoyed some of the Pro Acryl paints for army painting, particularly their metallic range.
Yeah, I actually would say that's probably my favorite like basic army painting range.
Yeah.
Because like the coverage is really kind of amazing. A lot of those Pro Acryl paints, especially like colors that normally don't cover well, their version of it covers really well.
Yeah, so shout out to you guys. You've done a great job of coming up with a paint range that's super useful.
Yeah.
I think when we were doing some heresy stuff, Andy Wardle got his videos out, and I was just decided with them. I thought they were wonderful. Sons of Horus is a challenging army to get right, and his take was really good. I was really inspired, so I followed along with those guides. Got my Patreon in, and that was they cracked my Patreon cherry. So Cult of Paint has that.
All the paint are good.
They're great, man. They're such an informative. That's why I wanted to Patreon them, is because they are such an informative team, and they're out there really helping everyone on all different levels.
Yeah, I'm a big Culture of Paint podcast fan.
Yeah.
Watch that one every week.
I'm assuming you know them as well, like you met in person and things.
Yeah, I've met Andy and Rich.
Yeah.
So two of them. There's more Cult of Paint people somewhere.
Yeah. Where I was going with that is that some of the colours that I think Andy was using from the Pro Acryl range and the metallic range, particularly is it light bronze? I think it is. Like it's for gold really. For army painting, it just seams off the table.
Yeah. They have lots of nice colours.
They do. They really do.
But I haven't tried their metallics, so an opportunity awaits.
All right, well, I got a tough one for you now.
Leaning in the chair just to set up the question.
You only get one miniature range or line that you can take with you with your 3 paints. And one set of brushes.
Okay, the set of brushes is easy.
Yep.
It would be like a decent set of Winsor & Newton Series 7.
You're a Series 7 man?
Yeah. There are other brushes that I think can be just as good.
Yep.
But I found that the Winsor & Newtons are very consistent.
Yeah.
They've got good quality control, I guess.
Yeah.
They're also seriously expensive, even compared to their competitors.
Indeed.
So you definitely pay for that QA.
Yeah, I think there is once you hit a certain point with brushes, right, it all elevates to a price point that's sort of you're getting what you pay for.
Yeah. The other one I like quite a bit is the Raphael 8404s.
I'm an 8404.
Big belly on those.
I love them.
Whole lot of paint.
They will be coming with me on my journey to paint islands.
Yeah. So those are really nice, especially for glazing and stuff. They just hold a lot of paint in the belly. Like
1 and 2 is really nice.
Yeah.
All right, but now let's get on to the big one.
It's much harder.
That's
a brutal question.
It is. Too hard to answer?
How specific do I have to be?
Well, you could go, you could say for miniatures I'd like this, for busts or 75s I like this.
Oh, okay. All right.
If you want to.
If it was like 32-ish scale, it would be 40k
Yep.
as a range.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you could probably do that forever.
Yeah.
There's about 1 million models in that range.
And they're just going to keep coming. So
and they keep coming.
You're on your island with your ice yellow, Alizarian crimson, and your burnt umber, your set of Winsor Newtons, right?
Yeah.
And just a ferry of 40k comes across every 6 months to keep you going.
And it comes out way faster.
It does, but maybe you're going to be so far out.
It'll take a while.
You're going to get a pallet, right?
Bulk ship.
Yeah, bulk shipping.
Yeah.
And then what have you got for me for like 75? 54 plus.
I think I would have to go with maybe Black Pro for the bust.
Yeah.
But there's the Spira stuff as well, which that's very good bust territory.
You painted your first Spirit this year as well.
I did.
But you've got a few, right? You've got a few sitting there?
I've got, I think, 2 more.
2.
I can't remember what they are.
Yeah. Mercenary Goblin?
No, it's really annoying. I don't have that.
You don't have Mercenary Goblin.
I was like, oh, it's all right. And then I've seen a few here.
Yeah.
It's a really good sculpt. Like, I'm quite sad I haven't got it.
And did you get Mercenary Dwarf then?
No. It's even worse. I skipped that one as well. It's like, what am I doing?
What are you doing, Liam? I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to at you when they come out and just say dot.
A reminder.
Yeah.
I'm on his email list and everything, and I'm still fucking it up.
Well,
getting it right.
You're painting a lot of stuff. You have a lot of stuff coming.
Yeah. Right, busts. That wasn't a choice, but I'm going to just not choose one of those 2.
Yeah.
And then for 75s, I just don't think I could choose a single range or manufacturer.
I mean, it's
like,
an incredibly hard question, right? Like,
Yeah.
we love everything, really. You know, you can find something.
it's more that like I like some stuff from everyone,
Yeah.
right? Like I'm fairly picky with it. It takes me quite a while to paint something as a display piece. I think
that's the architect coming out right now.
Actually, I think if I had to choose, I'd probably say Black Sun.
Black Sun?
Yeah.
I recently painted a Black
because of the
Sun.
style.
Yeah, I recently painted a Black Sun model this year. The breast when it came back in stock, I immediately got that and Eunice.
Yeah.
I think I've got Eunice ready for this year coming.
They do like a lot of sort of gritty fantasy stuff, like a little bit in that vein, and I like that as a concept, as a genre. So I think I'd probably just go with that, right?
Maddox is a really great one from
Exactly.
We've
It's
got
very much in that territory. Yeah.
Liam, I have 2 dwarfs coming. You can take one if I get it back after.
Oh, that's a good attempt.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's cheeky, mini answer.
It's an offer.
Do we have any more questions? What importance, if any, would you attach to some popularity? Is that in regards to...
No idea what that is.
Yeah, is that in regards to...
Is that so me or some?
Oh, you don't sound like a guy who's only been painting for a few years. This is a compliment.
Thank you. I spend a lot of time studying, I
you're a
suppose.
student of the craft, I think. So.
I mean, I'm a student in general. I've been doing education for a very long time. I guess that's part of the attitude.
Yeah, awesome.
But yeah, I definitely do a lot of like I've backed loads of Patreons over the last few years, like off and on. I do definitely do a lot of research into people's styles and how they paint.
I think when you jump on your journey to display painting and want to become the best at it you possibly can, you just have to open yourself up to every possible.
Yeah, I mean, there's clearly a balance of kind of educating yourself and putting that education into practice, right? And that's true of everything. But it's quite hard to get that balance right in general, I think.
100%.
There's no point practicing if you don't know what you're practicing. Right? But there's also no point knowing everything about something and having no ability to actually do it.
Yeah, indeed.
So,
All right, well, we've been going for a good 30 or 40 minutes.
We'll never find out what so me is.
We'll never
Just
find
move
out
on.
until you'll let us know. I'm sure it's probably something to do with...
I'll get back to you on it.
I'll probably ask you a
Sure,
silly question or something like that.
Maybe.
So thank you for coming on and having a chat with me.
Thanks for having me.
It's also been a pleasure to meet you IRL. It's
Great meeting you as well.
I hope that we can definitely from here on out, share more conversations about the thing we love, and I'm hoping to pick your brains and learn from you. I think I've got a lot to learn from you. So
more than happy to chat about it.
Awesome. Oh, social media. You got us. That is a sick question. So let's answer
time,
that.
I will answer it,
We've absolutely got time.
That is a good question.
Thanks, Tui, for just being a legend again. With a great question.
Primo question.
Primo question from Tui. So,
it depends what you mean by importance. Importance in what sphere, right? Like, if the question is, does social media popularity correlate with ability as a painter or an artist? No, absolutely not. The best thing you can do if you want to be popular on social media is to take a Space Marine chapter that is popular and convert your models fairly well to fit that chapter, and then paint them really well, and then just do that as quickly as possible. And that is absolutely the fastest way to get a lot of followers.
And then I think short form reels in tutorial base seem to do incredibly well as well.
That and TikTok as well. If you can get into TikTok with that type of content and refer that back to other social media. There's people who have gotten 30,000 followers in a few months.
I think Storm did a TikTok video the other day or something, and the viewer rate was just off the chart.
And to be clear, I don't mean people who do that are by definition bad painters.
No.
But doing that is what gets you followers. It's not the absolute skill as a painter or an artist. Or
that's exactly
that's the secret to it.
Now,
But that's one interpretation of that question.
Yeah, exactly right.
The other one, I suppose, is just broadly how important is it? How useful is it in life, maybe?
Yeah.
I mean, it is useful because you get approached by companies who offer to send you free stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, intrinsically, that's helpful, I suppose. Everyone likes free stuff.
If you're not having to pay for your projects, it's a double-edged sword, right? You're getting somewhere, I think, in some regard, but at the same time, it can control a little bit about what you're doing or what you're painting. So.
Yeah, I mean, Games Workshop sends me a lot of their new 40k releases.
Yeah.
I get
you just put one up last night, actually, didn't you? Was it last night? Yeah.
I think this morning.
This morning,
Yeah, I forgot to do it last night.
Yeah.
I was too busy screaming over the loudest Lunar New Year filled bar.
Yeah, so for everyone at home, right, we had a painters
Yeah.
dinner booked in for last night,
Yeah.
which we grossly underestimated how many people would like to come along to that. So we had to do a venue swap.
Yeah.
And we were at the what was it called? The
Dixon Tap House.
Tap House. It also coincided with Chinese Lunar New Year going on, Natalia. And when we arrived at the pub, not only was the pub absolutely heaving, the whole
Turned out we were
street
in
was
the
heaving.
Chinese hotspot of Canberra.
Yeah, so
it
there was,
like,
we had like
it was big.
K-pop and J-pop and
We had people in full BDSM gear
Yep.
doing an acrobatic show on a stage.
yeah, that was
reason.
wild.
Yeah.
And so it was a loud and fun night. So I'm surprised how many people are doing wonderful today. Yeah, we're getting ready to finish up now. Yeah, sure. All right, well, we might call it there. I think you answered that question pretty well.
I think I could answer it for a long time.
Yeah, I think we
We've
could
got to wrap it up.
probably go on for that for a little while.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take another little break. Again, thanks, Liam, for jumping on with me and having a chat.
having me
After
on.
this, I'm going to get in for a quick chat with Andrew Johnson from SpecMod. He's here now. We'll talk about what he offers to the Australian painting scene and a little bit about his business and journey. That won't be as long, as we are definitely getting ready to move towards the
Judging
highly
before long.
anticipated judging.
Do tune in.
Do tune in.
gonna
Thanks
be
again for sticking
incredible
around with us.
scene.
Thanks again, Liam. And see you soon. Boy!
See you later.